Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm starting a new series. I'm going to be building mega menus from different websites. I'm going to be taking a sample of different live websites and try to recreate their menu system, specifically the mega menu. So we're going to be doing both a desktop and mobile. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the Maggior website. We have these, the services, customers. These are mega menus. This is just a regular nav item. This is a mega menu, looks like a small drop down. This is a mega menu. This is just a regular item. Then we have these. We're not going to be doing this translation stuff, but they have two buttons here, the book a demo and sign in. So we're going to be doing this. Now we're not going to have a separate button, so that when we go on mobile, we are still going to have that button inside a nav like they're on. And we're going to try to do something just like this, where the drop down expands like that. And let's just go ahead. Now I'm going to be using the Bricks nestable nav to do this, but the native Bricks nestable nav to get this result the way it is could take you a couple of hours to be able to achieve that. So I'm going to be using a Bricks nestable nav template that I created to make building your Bricks navigation very easy. So I'm going to go ahead and import that template as a starting point to use. So here I'm going to click on choose file, and then I'm going to import the template. I've gone ahead to choose my template, which is a JSON file, and then I'm going to click on import images, so it can import any images that comes with that template, which is the logo. Basically, I'm going to click on import, and that is imported. Next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to open it with Bricks. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, so now that is imported, and you can see it's called, this is the Mega Menu Pro, but then here it's called, you're going to see the name Header Pro version 1.2 Lite. Now we have the regular version, which gives you options for sidebar navigation of canvas, different kinds of stuff. But this is just the light version, which just gives you the basic things you need to build this kind of navigation. This is simple enough, and we're going to do just that. So if I preview this on the front end, you're going to see that it doesn't look great. This is basically how the Bricks nestable nav looks by default. So we are going to go ahead and activate these code blocks that are here. So I want to execute all of them. That will enable all the styles and the code that controls this. But I'm also going to go into the template settings. I want to populate the content. So I want to preview my home page. And then I'm going to apply that. That is going to save this document. And then when it refreshes on the front end, we're going to see the home page and then the header text shape. And you can see how it looks now. Oh my God, it looks great. Wow. Okay, so this is the starting point. This is the starting point that you're going to get with this template. And so how do we get it to go from here to here with exactly the way it is? So the first thing we want to do is that we want to make it like this. Look, it is sticky and it is an overlay header. So it overlays also, but it sticks. So what I'm going to do is to go in there, go to select the header, and then I'm going to go to the attribute. We have options that you can set in the attributes, and then I will change that to true. I'm also going to do that for the mobile, overlay header mobile true, and I'm going to save this. Let's look at the front end and see what happens. Wow, can you imagine that? That moved it from the way it was to something like this, but it's still not sticky. So to make it sticky, we're going to go to the Bricks header settings, and then we're going to turn on sticky and save, and let's see what happens. Now it is sticky. So we are closer to what they have here. So the next thing I want to do is to make sure that the height is something close to this. To do that, I'm going to go to the menu style and option. This is where you style the menu, the navigation. So I'm going to go to the content, and then I'm going to go to the CSS section. I want to change the height. So we have the header minimum height here is 60, and then I'm going to change that to 100. So that's a minimum height. It could be bigger than that if anything makes it bigger, but the minimum height is 100. So that gives it that minimum height. And then we see the border here is a bit rounder than our default border, but it is a bit difficult to work with the Bricks code blocks. So I'm going to move these codes to automatic CSS style sheet. I think it's, I don't know if it is a style sheet or code block. So I'm going to just cut it out. Okay. And then I'm going to open automatic CSS. Okay. So this is automatic CSS panel. I'm going to go to the global CSS, and then I'm going to paste this and save. Then we'll move over to the front end, and then we're going to see the changes we are making live on the front end. So I think I'll go ahead and refresh this. Yeah, I think. and that must have refreshed on its own. And then I'm going to see this here. You could actually dock it anyhow you want, so I'm just going to move it like this. The good thing about this is that you can actually search for what you want to style. So it get a little bit of getting used to, but I want to style the overlay header. So I'm just going to take me to where the overlay header is. And now you can see that they have a little bit of bigger space. If I close this, you can see that space is a little bit bigger between the header than ours. So that is the inset. So I'm just going to make this 1.5. And that pushes it a little bit, maybe 1.7. Okay. So it takes it close to what, let's just try to make it 1.8. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. Another thing is that you see, yeah, we talked about the rounded edge. Okay. So we have this radius. I'm going to make the radius here like 1.5. Okay. So let's just make that 2.5 is good. I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go into the builder and then we're going to create the number of nav items that we want. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular ones and 2 extra ones for the buttons. So that's what I'm going to do. So we have here is a mega menu. This is a mega menu. This is a regular one. This is a mega menu. This is a mega menu and a regular. So we have 2 regulars and 4 mega menus. So we're going to go into the builder and recreate that. So this is a drop down. Now we don't want to use a drop down because this is for multi-level and they don't have a multi-level navigation. So we're going to delete that drop down. And then we want to create 4 mega menus. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And in between that, the first 2, we have 1 regular link item. And then we have another link item. And then this last one is a button, like the last item. But we have 2 here, sign in and book a demo. So I'm going to create 2 extra ones. So these are the last link items. So I'm just going to say sign in. And then I'm going to say book a demo. Let's save that. And for these top ones, we have services, customers, pricing. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and rename this and I'm going to speed it up. All right, so I've gone ahead to rename all the items here and let's look at the front end and they look good. So we have this as a button, 2 of these as button, but right now this is the only one we have a button. Now these template supports up to 3 last items to be set as button. By default, it comes with 1 button enabled. So let's go to the nav nestable and then we're going to go to the attribute and you're going to see where it says last item is button is set to true and that makes it a button. Now if I remove this and save, you can see that it's no longer a button, but if I say true, you can see that it's going to turn to a button. But to enable 2 or 3, you're going to have to add -2 and then that is going to enable 2. If you want to enable 3, you could add -3. And sometimes inside the builder, these attributes don't reflect immediately until you refresh. But let's just save and preview on the front end and let's see how it looks. And it looks great. So we have sign in and book a demo. And then you could also notice that these other parts that are not styled like a button is in the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here, last item is button alignment, we're just going to say center and then we're going to save it. But then let's refresh this so we can also see the change in the builder, and this is going to refresh and we see, yep, that looks great. We're already almost halfway there and we're going to start styling these buttons, but in the builder you can see after refreshing we can see that it's reflecting in the builder. So I'm going to open up that styling and I'm going to open this up. So we want to style this. It's called the CTA, call to action buttons, but this is what it's called in the styling. So I'm going to just Ctrl F and say CTA and click enter, and then it shows you the CTA. Now it has styling for the 3 different buttons. So where you have many CTA buttons, all buttons, this styling is relevant to all the buttons, and this is like the first button. Now this first button is actually the last button, so it's first from the right. Okay, so this is the last button and we have the second button, which is this one. And then if you have the third one, it's going to be the one that would be here. Okay, so what we want to change is what? We want to change the border radius. So we're going to go to the first one, or which is the last one. And then the border radius, I'm going to just make it 50 viewport width, which is going to give it a peel shape. And that looks great. And you know, that changes for all of them because this variable is being used here also. This is much bigger, so we need to change the vertical padding. So this is the block padding. So what we used was the menu item block padding, but we're going to change it to have for it to have its own block padding. And so the block padding here, instead of it being the menu item block padding, I'm just gonna make it like 2 rem. I think that's about it. Okay, 2 rem is good. And the inline padding, I'm also gonna make it like let's try 2 rem. 2 rem looks a bit smaller. Let's do 2.4 rem. Okay, that looks good. It seems our texts are smaller, but then let's finish with this. Now the second button, this first button has a hover, which is regular. This has a different kind of styling. So what we want is, when we hover on this, we want the text to be the primary color, and this button is white with an outline. So we're going to go to the second button, and we have the text, which will be black. Okay, so we're going to just call that black. And then the hover, we want the hover to be the primary color. Now that primary color is in a variable called primary color, like that, because if you go all the way up here, you're going to see that primary color. We could change it to purple, and that will give us what we want. So let's go back to our CTA, the second button. So let's go ahead and change the background. For the second one, the background, we want it to be white, and that is white, but we don't want the hover background to be white. So we want the hover, sorry, we don't want it to be the purple. We want it to be white also. And then, but then you could also say inherit, so you can inherit this white. Okay. All right. And now, so we have, when we hover, we have this text as purple, and then we need a border around it. Now, so by default, it shares the border style with the first one, which is none. So we're going to make this solid transparent, and we're going to make it 1 pixel. We're going to go here. Let's just copy this, and then we're going to go here, and then we don't want it to have the same. Okay, we want it to be an actual color instead of transparent. So we're going to make that light gray, and it looks just like this. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to actually change the size of the menu item text. So we're going to go all the way up here, and we'll look at for menu items. Now menu items have colors, hover color style, active styles. Now we're going to go to typography and just make the size 16, and that is, so I think this is up to 18 perhaps. Yep, that's about it. So we have 18. I'm going to go ahead and save this. What's the next thing? We're almost locking down the styles on all of this. Let's go to mobile. I'm going to go to the mobile on this, and let's open this up. So you see that on mobile, we have this rounded. Yep. So I'm going to close this, and let's go to mobile. And we see that ours looks a bit weird. Okay. So we need to style it on mobile. So to style it on mobile, we want to revert the header height back to what it was before, which is 60. I'm going to copy the minimum header height here. Now you could use a calc function to move it from 100 to like 60 pixel on header, but you could also, if I copy this and I go to mobile styles, now you could see that we have a locally scoped variable for mobile styles with this class. So all I need to do is to just paste that header minimum height and take it back to 60, and that is going to give me my mobile height for the header. And then we also need to change the border radius a little bit. So the overlay header border radius, which was 2.5 rem. And again, you can also use calculated values to avoid doing this on 2 places, but I just want to show you that option. So mobile styles, gonna paste this here, and then we're going to reduce that to like 1.2 or 5 and save it. Let's see how it looks. All right, that looks better. Okay, theirs actually looks a bit larger. Yeah, but we could still adjust things to make it just the way we want, but you get the idea. So I'm just going to quickly go to that mobile styles and just increase that to like 80. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is to fix this. You see, this is how theirs comes out from the top down, and all their menu items are expanded like this. But when we go to mobile device and we look at our own, it doesn't look quite like that, you see, and ours slides in, which is nice on its own normally, I've just figured that I spelled company wrong. Okay, let's go back in there and first of all correct the spelling of company. Now, for us to make this to slide down like this and expand, we're going to go into, first we're going to go to the nav nestable attributes, and then the slide in direction, we're going to say top. And it's going to make it slide down. But to expand, we're going to say submenu reveal. We're going to change that to expand. And that is going to be what we want. So let's go back to the front end when it refreshes, and we'll see if we have what we want. I'm going to go to the mobile, and then let's check it out. All right, so it's coming in from the top. That is what we want, and it is expanding. Great, nice. Let's close that. But then it doesn't quite look like this, because this has the width of this. It's just about the width of this menu. So we have a one-click fix for that, and that is when you have match overlay header width, and we're going to set that to true. That is going to match the menu width with the overlay header, and once it refreshes, you're going to see the magic, and that does it. So wow, look at that. So we have this sliding in like that, or expanding, and it's quite smooth. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is the placement of the mega menu drop-down item. So if you look at this, you see the services, the drop-down is directly under the service, but the customer seems to be aligned to the header. The pricing, this is directly under the, its top level parent, and this seems to be aligned to the resources, not the header itself. But in our own case, everything aligns the same. So first of all, we're going to bring in the templates that we're going to use to build this, and let's go in. Bricks can do this at times, so you have to refresh it. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this mega menu content with a pre-built section that is similar to this. And so the Mega Menu Pro comes with starter drop-down content template that you can use as a starting point to build your navigation. I've already gone ahead to add that to this website. So I'm going to go ahead to template, and then I'm going to go to DWC Mega Menu template, which I added in Bricks. So if you want to see where I added it, is in under settings, just the same way you add remote template in Bricks, and then under templates here I have added it with the URL that is being provided in the dashboard, like that is if you get this menu, and then the password. Once you add that, it comes up like this. So we have different kinds of template. We're going to just choose something that looks like this. So let's look at that. Which one looks like this? We have something like this. I'm going to insert it, and that should come in here. So I'm basically going to place it inside the drop down content. I should have deleted the former one just so there's no confusion. Okay, now once you import a drop down like that, now it is named systematically. Now this is the name of the template it's coming from, Magic, and then the W400 means this is the recommended width that this template should be. So the W400 is actually width 400. Now to set a width for this drop down content, now if we save this and then we go to the front end, it's not going to look great. Why? Because the whole of this is, look at how big it is, okay? But this is meant to be a smaller width. To set a width of the drop down content, you have some instruction here. These are guides which can be turned off. Now to set a width, it says set the drop down content width in drop down content attribute. Now you can click here to select the drop down content, and then you go to the attribute. It says the style value should be the drop down content width, example 1800. So we go to style, the value, we already have a 1800 there, which is the default value. I'm going to remove that and put 400 pixels. And that is going to give me the size that I want. But I also want it to align to, here, because by default, it's going to align to the center of the heading. For example, if I go ahead and save this, you're going to see that it's going to align to the center of the heading. You see, and we can click it like that, you see, because it's aligning to the center. To align it to its parent, you're going to go to data content align, and we're going to say center. Now, by default, this is left empty to align the drop down mega menu content to the header. But then if you put a value here, left, right, or center, it's going to align it to its top level parent. And then I want to see the preview in the builder. I'm just going to say true, and then that shows me how it's going to look. And I will save that. Yep, that looks great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bring in the other items and I'm going to just do that quickly. So the next one is this. I also have a template that looks similar to that. By the way, I actually had to create those templates so this build will be faster. So I have this and I have to go there, and this is something like this. I'm going to insert it in. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring it inside the content, which is what is supposed to happen. So you actually have to drag it inside that. And for that, that aligns to the center of the heading, it seems, but not exactly. And it also doesn't align to the center of this. But then we are going to just leave it aligned to the center of the heading. So I'm going to save that. And then for the next one, which is the company, it's a very small one. So we're going to go there, the company, and I'm going to delete this also. Go to that template. We have something small like that. Drag it inside, and you can see that this one has a width of, now this had a width of 1080, which is the default. We're leaving it like that. This is 200. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, and then I'm going to go to this style, and then I'm going to go here and make it 200 pixels. And then I'm going to align it to the center of its parent. And then I want to preview it in the builder. Set this to true. Yep, so we'll look at that. And then the last one is this one, which is basically like the first one, but actually it is reversed, okay? But there, I'm gonna just delete this, and I'll just go pick up that same one again and put there. And you can see that this one, it's kind of reversed, okay? So the picture is actually at the end here. So basically what I'm going to do is just to swap this. I'm going to swap that. Now we could use CSS to do that, but I just want to swap that because it's just a menu and it's not a lot of things, you know, so you could simply just swap that. All right, this is good. This is good. And this, you see, this was aligned to its parent. I really don't think it's necessary because we already have you can actually access it, so it's still fine for it to be aligned to the header. So we're not going to bother changing that. Now the next thing is that you see they have a gap here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So let's come here. We don't have a gap in our own, and we have these on the line. So let's come here and look at what we need to change. So first of all, we have this drop down content gap. So I'm going to change this to like 20 pixels, and let's see. Oh, 20 is a lot. Let's make it 10. And we still have a nice gap there. So which is almost like, yeah, 10 is just about it. But we have a caret here, which is a feature of the drop down content. But then again, we have a line on that. They don't have a line. So we're going to remove that line. And you can find that in the menu item active border height, which is also used for the menu item hover border height. Okay, menu item active border height is also set to this. So if it is an active item, it's going to show that for the active style, but we want to change that height to 0 because we don't want to see it, and then that is it. We don't find it anymore. But how do we remove our caret? Let's go to save it, and then let's go to the back end, and then we are going to go to the nav nestable item, and we're going to go to the attribute, go all the way down and set caret to false, like we remove true from there. That means we don't want the caret, even though it is really nice, but they don't have it, and we want to build something exactly like this. And yep, the caret is gone. All right, so the next thing we realize is that they have rounded, okay? Theirs is rounded and ours is not rounded. So let's go ahead and round that. So how do we do that? We go back to that, and then we have the drop down content border radius. I'm just going to set mine to 2 rem, and let's see. Now I've set it to 2 rem, but it doesn't seem to do anything. So I'm going to save it. Now it has a border radius, but the problem is that the inner content has a background. So let's go in there, and that inner content has a background. So let's go to the CSS, and we can see that it has a background of white. So I'm going to just change that background to initial, meaning or I could remove it all together, but I prefer to just set it to initial in case I want to change it later. But if you're absolutely sure you will not need to use it, you could simply just delete it. And this is the mega menu content inner magic, which is the same for all of them. So they all have the same class. So that means all of them will have that updated, and they are not going to have that background. So as that background is removed, but someone says, oh, why don't you just make it overflow hidden? No, because I don't want to make it overflow hidden because this could potentially break something. I don't want to put overflow hidden on this for some technicalities. So to prevent that, you just remove that background from the other one. And this looks really good. So we're basically done with this. So the next thing is, okay, so they have their custom icons. And I've gone ahead to download the icons so I could show you how you could change from the regular bricks icon to the SVGs. So we go in here and let's just come here. First, we're going to come here. Now, the icon, the first icon. So we're going to come here to the icons and then we're going to go to SVG and we're going to select. I'm going to just select the first one, insert. And you can see that the size is actually small. Now, when it comes to the SVG, you can't change the size from here. So you actually need to set a size here. So I'm going to set it to 50 by 50. And that gives me the size of my icon. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that is controlled by class either, but I'm not sure about that. Let's just see. Let's look at that. I'm going to select the second one. So we can see that these class doesn't affect this, okay, because it's not passing this value onto the next one. So we're going to go ahead and remove that from here and we're going to go to the class and we're going to set that on the class. The class should have already had some, yeah, sometimes this behaves like this. Now so we are going to set the width. Now we already had a minimum inline size. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that to an inline size of 50. And then we're going to change, we're going to add a block size. Now these are logical properties, which means width and height. So the inline size is width and the height is the block size. So let's see if that did anything. And you can see that it applies it to both of them. So once I bring in another SVG, it's going to apply the same to it. Now, I'm not going to spend all the time changing all the SVGs, but I just wanted to see how to change from the regular bricks icon to a custom SVG. So you could go ahead and change all of this, change the images and change the text, and everything will look great. Of course, there's a line here and there's a line here. Yep, you could add the border left here, and you could add the border left on this, and we could just make that look exactly like it is. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to select, this is a nav group, okay, and this is, now because this nav group is also being used in other places, I want to add a class to this inner content inner, and then I want to add a class and say this has border right. Now that is like a utility class, and I'm going to go in and I want to target the nav group. Okay, I'm going to target the nav group, but I could also target the direct children, direct divs. So whichever one works. Let's say we wanted to add something else that didn't have the same class, so targeting the direct div might be a better idea, but depending on your use case. So I'm going to select that class. I'm going to go down to the CSS. I'm going to write root, and then I'm going to put the arrow there. That means direct children, but not the last child. And we're going to say border right solid 1 pixel light. Now you could use tokens for this, CSS variables for this, but I'm just working fast. So light gray. Now this light gray could be a variable. It could be part of your global colors, where you could use var, whatever you're using, and then you hook in. If you're using a CSS, you could hook in your your classes, your variables here, and that should give us. So it gives me that. Okay, and that goes all the way to the top. Yep. This doesn't have, so all we need to do is to add that to this also. We're gonna add that has border right. I'm gonna go ahead and add it border right. So how do we make it in such a way that it doesn't go all the way to the top? Why? The reason it goes all the way to the top is because we don't have a padding here. Instead, the paddings are inside these nav groups. Okay, so if we go to the nav group and let's say we want to take away the paddings from the nav group. I mean, we could do all that, but so we have these paddings. So the top and bottom padding are on the nav group. So if I go ahead and remove the top and bottom padding from the nav group and bring it here instead and put it the top and bottom padding here, you see, then that solves the problem. So it all depends on the structure that you want to create. So for that structure that we want to create, we didn't need that top and bottom padding inside the nav, but instead on the inner content inner. And this looks like 200 is a bit too small for this size of the text, even though they just wrote a few things. So I'm going to make it 250. So let's go to that. Was it company? Yep. I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to go there, and I'm just going to make it 250, and that should solve our problem. And if I save and go to the front end, maybe there's one more thing that I've noticed, which is that our shadow is really soft and they have what it looks like a border. So what we can do here is go back to that ACSS and tweak the overlay header shadow. So I'm going to Control F to search again, overlay header shadow. So we're going to look for shadow. Yeah, there we have a shadow, and this to set the shadow, this is the x-axis, the y-axis. I want the y-axis to be 0. How the shadow does, I don't want it to notch down. I want it to just stay centralized. And then for this, I'm going to just make this maybe 2 pixels, the shadow. Okay, so the shadow is going to be just 2 pixels, and then I'm going to increase the opacity of the shadow. Okay, so right now you see what we have there. So it looks something similar to this. So I'm going to save that. But if you want to go ahead and change the chevron size, which it seems that our own chevron is a bit big, even though they didn't have a chevron, which is not a good thing. You need to have something to indicate that it is a drop down visually like they had here. So we have our own and we don't want to remove it. If we wanted to remove it, we could have just gone ahead and changed this to 0, but that is not good. So I'm just going to make my chevron 12 to just make it slightly smaller. If we go to the mobile, everything would seem to work great also. Now on mobile, we look at this and the size, we don't have enough breathing room. We don't have enough top and bottom padding in between our items here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add that. So to add that, we'll do the same thing. So we're going to go to that style again, and then we want the menu item inline block padding for the mobile. So we have menu item block padding is 1 rem, but we want to move it, copy it out, and go down to where you have the mobile styles. Okay, so this is the mobile styles. Menu item, just check if it's not here already, you can add it. The menu item block padding, we want to change it to 2 rem here, and let's see if that will work. Okay, so yep, the 2 rem actually did magic. And another thing we can also change is that, now this is a problem which I'm going to deal with that. Another thing we could also change, so I'm seeing problems that have been introduced in mobile, but another thing we could change is this style. When you click this, it doesn't have that black. So how do you remove that black? Okay, we could also do that. We're going to solve all the problems. So let's just go ahead and keep solving the problems that are arising. Okay, so we're going to remove, first of all, we're going to remove that black. So it's the drop down. That is the drop down active color. So we're going to go to drop down, just scroll down, you see drop down. So drop down active background is black. I'm going to just change it to white because I don't want it to be black. And then the drop down active color is white. I'm going to change that to primary, which is the purple. So if I go ahead and check that, we should not have that drop down color change again. And so let's deal with this, and also let's deal with this. Remember when we removed the padding on the top, you see it made this so close to this, and this, remember, we changed from 200 to 250. Why did this happen? And this happened because these let me save this. This happened because these items have this width set. Okay, so on their IDs, so you have to go into the layout and actually remove that width once you have added the recommended width. And I recommend you do that for all of them. Like this was 400, even though we set this to be 400 exactly, this wouldn't matter. Okay, it doesn't have any problem because the width we set for the drop down, the content, is also 400. But where the width is higher than 400, you could just go in on the ID and just remove that max width, and then everything should be back. And then for the case where we have this group, this nav group, where we have removed that padding from the top. On mobile, we might want to put back that padding. Okay, so that padding was just something like this. So we could go to like a mobile breakpoint and then, put back that padding top. And then everything will be fine and dandy. Okay, so that solves the problem. So we have enough gap here now, spacing. Okay, this looks great. This looks great. Okay, and we have our sign in and all of that. All right, so that brings us finally to the end of this tutorial, and we have been able to recreate this menu and made it look as great as this. So if you learned something in this tutorial, let me know in the comment section, hit the like button. And if you want to get the Mega Menu Pro, you could get it here at Gumroad. I'm going to put a link in the description, and you're going to see a link right here. So get it from Gumroad and use it to build your mega menu. I'm going to be bringing out more videos. We're going to build more mega menu live examples, and I think the next one we're going to do will be the Stripe mega menu. Until next time, do have a great day. Bye.